And it's interesting too. Like I always thought, like, if you're in the rooms with certain people, like your boys or your friends, and they know that you're a good songwriter, they kind of tell somebody else, hey, he's pretty good. But it sounds like you're waiting, you're sitting there waiting, and your management calls you up and like, hey, you're going to write this song for so-and-so next week. Or this is going to be the next one you're writing. Like when you finally got that number one, he calls like, hey, you're going to write this song. Hey, you're going to write this song. Were you knowing at the time, like Blake Shelton, did you know that he liked you as a songwriter and you were going to write his song? Or is it basically these management teams figure out like, hey, it's going to be Hardy. Hardy's going to write this song for him.
No, I'm telling you, it was all like, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it, dude. I'm telling you, when I wrote God's Country, it was the first song I wrote in 2019. And I wrote that song and I left that day thinking like, that's a cool song. And you just get a call that like 2 days later, my publisher was like, hey, I sent that to Blake's producer and Blake apparently loves it and he's going to record it like in a week. But there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like you just wrote a song that day and you're hoping that it lands somewhere.
And do you even know Blake Shelton at the time?
No.
Like, does he know of you?
At the time,
he just hears your song and hears you write it up and he's like, I love this song. This is what I'm going to record.
I think that I don't think, I mean, I was still so young, even just as an artist then, because I was like six or 8 months into my artist career or whatever. I probably don't think he knew who I was at all.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to writing, does the name of the writer play a part in the artist choosing the song?
Absolutely. Once you get to a certain point, absolutely.
Yeah. So like just getting your foot in the door is really difficult.
Yeah, totally.
People see Hardy and they're like, who the fuck is... Yeah.
I think that it's almost like a placebo effect, that like if you get a song sent to you and there's 3 giant hit songwriters who have written songs that you love, you're going to listen to that song differently than you are if it's 3 guys that you've never heard of in your life.
Yeah.
I just think I don't know if it tricks people, but it definitely doesn't hurt to see.
Yeah.
Like Ashley Gorley is number 1. He's written like 80 something number ones, and the next closest to him is like 45 or some shit like that. Yeah, he's the most successful. Ashley Gorley.
Ashley Gorley, pull him up, Sherm. I want to see you.
That's so fascinating. It feels like the country world. It's like I was going to be an artist, and they felt like I had something, and then they're like, "Hey, Hardy's going to write your next song." It's like almost in my head, like, "Oh, damn, maybe I am kind of nice." You know what I mean? Like they're kind of like pair everything together.
But it sounds like they just have like a sheet of songs and they're like,
that's more of what it is. Like? Yeah. I mean, you have like camps and stuff where like, you know, like you're a certain publishing company will go, you know, hold out we did like a cabin in Leaper's Fort and like we would have artists come in and attempt to write songs for that person. But really like it's, you just, the beauty of songwriting is that you just kind of go in and you write a song and you know, it gets sent to somebody and they fall in love with it. And the next thing you know, it's a hit. Like there's so much blindness to songwriting. There's a lot of strategy, but at the end of the day, the artist has to love the song. It could be the best song in the fucking world. And the artist might not like story songs, but like, and you know, it could be, you could send like, if I wrote whatever song and send it to Cole Swindell, who's like, you know, I can use him because he's like a friend of mine, but like, and he's maybe not a big story song guy, and he could pass on it, and then I could send it to Cody Johnson, and Cody Johnson would be like, this is the best song ever, and cut it, and it becomes a hit. There's just no, like, it's just so no rhyme or reason to any of it. It's all dependent on, like, that person's taste, what they think is a hit song. It's just all over the place.
What's the room like when you're walking into a writer's round or whatever? Like, if it's 3
like a
guys,
session?
Yeah, like 3 guys you don't know. Maybe a couple,
let's say you're younger in the
names.
game. You're younger in the game.
Oh, younger in the game?
And you're walking
it's crazy.
in, and there's some dudes that are like, you know this, like, I don't know if you ever wrote with this Ashley guy, but
yeah.
Somebody like that where you're like, this dude's a fucking dog.
Yeah, what am I going to add to this
Part
thing?
of you's like, how do I impress them?
Yeah, I mean, so especially back young in the game, dude, it was crazy because like you would know that you had a hit writer coming up in your calendar. So like a publisher would text and say, hey, I got you a write. Let's say Ashley Gorley. I got you a write with Ashley Gorley in 2 weeks. Those next 2 weeks, I'm going to be thinking of the best ideas that I possibly can. I'm going to have verse starts and like melodies and like that you have to come in prepared. You don't have to, but you probably should. You know what I mean? But dude, the crazy thing about early, like these days, man, you know, it's such a small community of songwriters. You literally, you're never going in blind. You know everybody. You've written tons of songs with everybody. You've sat in the room for hours. you just go in and you talk for a little bit, and then you're like, I got an idea called so-and-so, and you start writing. It's like, it's so casual. But back in the day, man, you have to have you have to have like a mental strength of like, I'm about to walk into a room and sit with a person that I don't fucking know and share my ability, which might not be that fucking good, for, 3 or 4 hours, and like pray to God that collaboration works, or else it's going to be the most awkward 4 hours of your fucking life.
It's 4 hours.
Sometimes it's 30 minutes, dude. Like sometimes a song just comes out. Sometimes it's 8 hours. It just depends on the room and the people and the day and all that. But
dude,
back in the day, it was tough, man.
So nervous.
Like say there's like a young Hardy out there that's about to sit in a room with Hardy and Ernest or something like that.
Yeah.
They know they're going to. It's like, fuck. What
They
am
know
I?
a couple. They're walking to the Lions Den a little bit.
Yeah, like two homies. That,
Yeah.
bro.
They're hanging out. They have a rapport. They're gonna say jokes like, "Do you laugh with
Yeah.
them?" Even though you don't know the full context. Like,
It's
the
all
whole
that.
thing.
It is all that.
Yeah.
And that's a good, I try to remember that as much as I can when I do get like a young writer or a young artist that people believe in and think, which I'm not freaking, I'm feel like I'm just still halfway there, but like to remember that there's kids, to give young people a shot, because that's like, people did that for me, and that's how people, you got to lift people up that you think are talented.
Right.
And a lot of times those
Paying it
people are
forward.
younger.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
But, to think about people that come into a room and like, they're playing it cool, but maybe they're nervous and shit. That's
Right.
cool as shit to think
Yeah.
that you're the guy now that's like, people are like, they've done 2 weeks of prep and throw
Yeah.
out ideas
Yeah.
and stuff like
And
that.
also shout out those guys that come in nervous, but they don't seem nervous.
Yeah,
and you're
sure.
like, oh, this person's rad. And at the end, they're like, yo, I was so nervous. But they're just like, were you really?
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking
Totally.
that's crazy.
yeah.
So with writing, how do you, as you, like now you sign your artist deal, you're starting to do the artist thing that everyone's talking about. You've been cutting songs for everybody else. How do you differentiate? Okay, I want to keep this little nugget for myself because I want my name to be big, as opposed to giving out
Totally.
other things. How do you differentiate that?
It came easier over time. I mean, I definitely have a very polarizing sound, so that helps, like of just like if it was like a rock thing or like just there's just a certain type of song that I know sounds like me and that probably won't fit anywhere else. But the main thing is just like, it's tough these days because I have a few, like I don't really sing, like I'm not a sexy song guy. I'm still young. So there's like, if you write a song that's kind of from the perspective of somebody that maybe is like closer to 50, like songs that are like, remember that time in high school when we did this thing kind of deal. I don't know. There's certain areas that I like just don't feel like I'm there yet, or just kind of stay away from. So, but these days it's a little more, it's easier to pick the ones that are for me because it seems obvious. But that was a struggle back in the day. And I'll tell you a funny story. My first number one was One Beer was the name of that song. And when I wrote that song, I had a record deal. I just signed a record deal, and that song got sent to Dustin Lynch. That's the story that I hear, and I hear that Dustin really liked it and that he was going to record it. That's the story. Dustin, you can fact check this and completely call bullshit. But my manager, Seth, called me. I'll never forget. I was in Oxford. I was with Callie, and he was like, "Hey, what the fuck's up with this One Beer song?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You're not keeping that for yourself?" And I was like, "No." It's like, that song is not, because at the time especially I was like Mr. Redneck, dude, and I just wanted to do like the super redneck shit. And this song was about like having a baby in high school and like, but how that turns into like a beautiful thing, blah blah blah. And he and I got in a legit full blown like yelling argument over the phone about, I was like, you don't, it was this whole thing about, he was trying to tell me like, he was telling me like, you're an idiot if you don't record this song. And he straight up said, this, if you record this song, it'll be your first number one. And I'm like, you're out of your freaking mind. He talked me into recording it. It was my first number one.
No shit.
So like there have been times where the opposite, where instead of like, this song is definitely for me, there's been times where I sent out a song and was like, there's a note that this is not a me song, and then I got a phone call. It's like, you need to take that back because this is definitely you.
What's a song that comes to mind that wasn't a you song that you thought it was?
I mean, the One Beer being one, but there was another one called Sign Sober You, which was like early on song, and we had to take that away from John Party. Apparently was gonna cut it like the next week, and I think Seth had to call his record label. And that's when it sucks, is when like it gets sent to somebody
Yeah,
else.
you can get a little chippy, huh?
And they have to call and be like, hey, we're taking this one back. And there is a law or an act that was passed called the First Usage Law or Act, where basically if you don't have permission from any of the songwriters, then you're not legally not allowed to record the song, but only one time. So like if I recorded it and it flopped, John Party could have recorded that and put it out, no problem. Like for example, because of the First Usage Act, you have to get permission from the songwriters to record the song for the first time. But after that, you don't have to get permission. So I could go re-record Morgan's Dangerous album, top to bottom, and put it out, and would not have to get permission from a single person.
Really?
Anybody could. You could. You could top to bottom record the Fleetwood Mac Rumors, freaking Michael Jackson Thriller, and you would not have to get permission from anybody.
Why? So why is there that giant gaping hole in the first act?
I guess just the first time. I don't know. For some reason, like the first time that it gets recorded, I don't know. You just have to get permission.
All right. Somebody wants to record a song. You wrote it with us three. Wrote a song. G wants to record that song. I want him to. Will wants him to. You don't want him to.
You only need permission from one songwriter.
Got you.
Yep.
And so, is there ever like a call back and forth with like?
Yeah, totally.
You and Ernest for Ernest, like I want this guy to record. And you're
totally.
Like, no.
And that situation can go 50-50, and it happens all the time. Like you'll have a guy who has, like, let's say he was a young artist and he's a buddy of mine and he wants the song really bad, but you guys think that it could go to somebody that, you know, there's no faith in him making money off the song because he's so young, nobody knows who he is. They might not play it on the radio. And then let's say Luke Bryan loves the song, but he's my buddy and I want to do him a solid. And I've got maybe some hits and I'm not worried about, you know, like that, but maybe you guys haven't had a hit yet. And you're like, well, fuck that. I heard Luke Bryan wants it. Yeah. Let's give it. Or like, why would you let him have it? This song is so good. Maybe somebody else wants it. Like there's that happens from time to time, but the Nashville way, and the thing, it kind of goes with the drop a word, take a third thing, is whoever wants it can have it. That's how I've always been. If you're the first person to get a hold of it and you really want it that bad, then take it. I feel like there's so many people that I look up to and like hit songwriters and stuff that have that mentality, and I just think that shit goes a long way. And like Up Down is a great example. Again, I say that there's a song, Jameson Rogers, who is a buddy of mine, that Some Girls, he cut that song. He recorded that song before he had a record deal, and that ended up being his first number one.
No shit.
So like sometimes you just got to let people take it because you never know what's going to happen with it, you know?
Yeah. Oh snap.
The
mouse is dying in the wheel right now. The mouse is dying in the wheel right now. Oh, are you essentially at a spot now where as you're writing music, you ultimately just in your mind, you're like, I'm writing the song for so-and-so? While also, and I guess simultaneously, you know, accepting your publisher being like, hey, you're going to write, you know, we said Blake Shelton, but you're going to write Blake Shelton's next song.
So there's a thing called a tip sheet, and they send it out like every week. And it basically, somebody does all this research or whatever, it's not like a ton of research, it's just word of mouth, but they make a database of who is recording right now. So like, let's say Tim McGraw is at the top, and like he's recording tomorrow. And Kenny Chesney is recording next week, and Morgan Wallen's recording over the next few weeks, and blah, 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 blah. And there's this long list of people, especially if I'm not like in a record cycle where I'm like writing for myself, or if I got plenty of songs and I know I'm like good for a while, like a lot of times you will look at that and be like, let's try to shoot for so-and-so. Like this person is recording tomorrow. What if we can get it to that person and they fall in love with it and they love it so much that they're like, screw this song I was going to record. Let's record this one instead, kind of thing.
Got you. Do you ever have songs that you write that you know this is the artist for it and you just kind of holster it until that artist is, you know,
yeah, sometimes
essentially like recording? Hey, they finally made the tip sheet on they'll be recording in a month from now.
Yeah,
and you're
totally.
like, all right, this is the song I've been waiting for.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll be like, this song that we wrote sounds like this person and only this person. I'm going to wait like 6 months until I know this person's going back in the studio, and then I'm going to send it to them. Because a lot of times people will listen to a song. Like if I was going to send it to Keith Urban, whoever, and he isn't recording he hasn't not going in the studio for a year. Do you really want to send a song to somebody and have them listen to it and get tired of it over a year and be like, maybe there's something else better out there?
Right.
Or do you want to wait till that 2 week window where they're really listening to songs
and
let them
motivated,
fall in love with it then? So it's fresh, you know?
Yeah.
There's like there's strategy to it. But again, There's no rhyme or reason. That person could love that song 2 years from now and record it and take it to radio and it could be a hit. But there is some, I mean, there's definitely some strategy, stuff like that you try to think songwriting, you know?
That's fascinating.
I love how many layers there are to this game.
I know.
It's super interesting to find out.
I mean, sometimes
And
that's
all
what
at the
makes
same
people hit
time,
songwriters.
The creativity just is, you know, I'm sure you have downtimes, but like just 24/7
thinking about something.
stuff new. You know what I mean?
Boys
It's
in
like
a deer
I
stand
couldn't even-
just thinking to himself, I could write this song or that song.
Yeah.